June 10th, 1940. Italy declares war on Britain. An Italian tanker called the Olterra finds herself trapped in Gibraltar Bay, enemy territory. So what does her crew do? They scuttle her, sink their own ship right there in Spanish waters at Algeciras, just across the bay from the British fortress of Gibraltar. And for 2 years, the Olterra just sits there, half sunken, rusting, forgotten. The British can literally see her from their consulate windows. She's harmless, right? Wrong. Because beneath that rusty hull, Italian naval commandos were about to pull off one of the war's most ingenious covert operations. They were going to turn this abandoned wreck into a fully functional submarine base, hidden in plain sight, directly across from Britain's most strategic Mediterranean stronghold. But here's where it gets really interesting. Early 1942, Lieutenant Licio Vicentini, a veteran Italian frogman who'd already sunk British ships, gets a crazy idea. Why risk sending submarines hundreds of miles to attack Gibraltar when there's already an Italian ship sitting right there? Vicentini and his team from the elite Decima Flottiglia Mass, the 10th Assault Vehicle Flotilla, arrive in Algeciras, disguised as civilian workers. Their cover story? They're raising the Olterra to repair her and sell her to a Spanish buyer. The Spanish authorities buy it. Why wouldn't they? Spain's officially neutral, so these civilian workers get to work. But they're not repairing the ship. They're transforming her into something incredible. First, they cut a 6-foot hole through the hull below the waterline. A hidden underwater door that's completely invisible from the surface. Then they convert the cargo holds and boiler rooms into workshops, machine shops, weapons depots, sleeping quarters, an entire maintenance facility for assembling and repairing human torpedoes, what the Italians called maiale, or pigs. And get this, they even install an observation post on the forecastle with telescopes and binoculars, giving them a perfect view of every British ship entering and leaving Gibraltar Harbor. The British consulate is right there. They're watching the Olterra every day, but all they see is a bunch of Italian workers pretending to fix an old tanker. Meanwhile, equipment is being smuggled from Italy, piece by piece, hidden in diplomatic bags, transported by rail through occupied France and Spain. Human torpedoes, diving suits, oxygen rebreathers, mines, all of it arriving under the noses of British intelligence. By late 1942, the Olterra is ready. She's a fully operational submarine base with an interior pool connected directly to the sea, and she's moored closer to British warships than most British sailors sleep. But launching the submarines was only half the challenge. The real question was, how did they actually pull off the attacks? Let me explain what these guys were riding. The SLC, Siluro a Lenta Corsa, slow-running torpedo, nicknamed the maiale, the pig, because it handled like a pig. Picture this, 22 feet long, electric motor, top speed of just 3 knots, that's walking pace underwater. 2 commandos sitting astride it like a motorcycle, wearing rubber diving suits and breathing pure oxygen from rebreathers to avoid leaving telltale bubbles. The front section, that's a 300-kilogram warhead packed with high explosives, detachable. Here's how it worked. Under cover of darkness, 2 frogmen would slip through that underwater door in the Olterra's hull, mount their pig, and silently glide across the bay toward Gibraltar. It would take them hours, sometimes 2 or 3, just to reach their targets. Once they reached a British ship, they'd dive beneath the hull, position the warhead against the keel, set the timer, detach it, and swim away. The mine would be held in place by clamps, hanging right between the ship's bilge keels. When it detonated, the explosion would crack the ship's spine. Physics would do the rest. The ship's own weight would tear it in half. And then these men had to swim back, miles across open water, in enemy territory, knowing that if they were caught, they'd be shot as spies. These weren't just soldiers. They were some of the most elite special forces operatives in the entire war. But here's where it gets even crazier. December 7th, 1942. First mission from the Olterra. The target? A British naval squadron that just sailed in after Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of North Africa. We're talking the battleship HMS Nelson, the battle cruiser HMS Renown, the aircraft carriers HMS Furious and HMS Formidable, the crown jewels of the Mediterranean fleet. 3 Maele slip out of the Olterra before dawn. 6 men. Their mission: sink Britain's most powerful warships. They make it through the boom defenses. But then, disaster strikes. British sentries spot them. Searchlights sweep the water. Depth charges explode. Anti-submarine boats race across the harbor. Lieutenant Visentini, the mastermind behind the Olterra operation, is killed in the attack. His body is never recovered. The mission fails. But here's the thing. The British assume the attack came from a submarine offshore. The captured Italian divers? They lie under interrogation. They claim their submarine, the Ambra, launched them from international waters. British intelligence believes them. They never suspect the Olterra. The secret base remains secure. So the Italians regroup. New commander, Lieutenant Ernesto Notari. New strategy. Instead of going after warships with heavy defenses, they'll target merchant ships, supply vessels, tankers, ships that are bringing fuel, ammunition, and supplies to Allied forces in North Africa and Malta. May 8th, 1943. Second mission. 3 Maele launch. They mine 3 cargo ships in Gibraltar Bay. When the charges blow, all 3 ships are destroyed. The American Liberty ship Pat Harrison, 7,000 tons. The British freighter Massoud, 7,500 tons, sinks to the bottom. The Camerata, 4,875 tons, sunk outright. August 3rd, 1943. Third mission. Another perfect attack. The Norwegian tanker Thorshovdi, 10,000 tons of fuel, literally broken in half by the explosion. The Harrison Grey Otis, 7,000 tons. The Stanbridge, 6,000 tons, all sunk. The British are going insane. How are their ships being sunk inside their own harbor? They increase patrols. They install anti-submarine nets. They drop depth charges randomly. They have divers checking every ship that enters port. But they never find the Olterra. Think about this. Italian commandos conducted multiple submarine operations from a base that was literally visible from British headquarters for over a year, and the British never figured it out. September 8th, 1943. Italy surrenders to the Allies. The war for Italy is over. The commandos aboard the Olterra receive orders to stand down. The mission ends, not because they were discovered, but because their country switched sides. It's only after the armistice that British intelligence finally learns the truth. They board the Olterra and discover the hidden workshops, the underwater door, the maintenance facilities, the observation posts. They realize they'd been staring at an enemy submarine base every single day for 18 months. And they never saw it. The Olterra operation ultimately sank or damaged 6 ships, totaling over 40,000 tons. But the psychological impact was even bigger. It proved that even the most heavily defended fortress could be penetrated by ingenuity, courage, and audacity. The commandos who survived, after Italy switched sides, some of them actually helped the British. Commander Borghese, the legend who'd led the Decima Mas, had trained these men so well that the Allies recruited them to teach British and American special forces the same tactics. Ironic, right? The men who'd terrorized British shipping in Gibraltar ended up training the very people they'd been attacking. So that's the story of the Olterra, one of World War II's most brilliant covert operations. A floating Trojan horse that hid in plain sight for over a year, launching attack after attack from a secret submarine base that was literally parked in enemy waters. The lesson? In war, sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the biggest gun or the fastest plane. Sometimes it's just the sheer audacity to hide your submarine base 300 meters from the enemy headquarters and hope they don't notice. Spoiler alert, they didn't. If you want more untold World War II stories like this, the operations that changed the war but barely made it into the history books, hit that subscribe button. I've got 10 more lined up that'll blow your mind. And here's my question for you. Which secret operation should I cover next? The British suicide squad buried alive in Gibraltar? The fake letters that destroyed German morale? Or the soldier who didn't know the war ended for 29 years? Drop your vote in the comments below.